All right, we have a quorum, so let's get started here on the August 9th, 2021 Sewer Water Commission meeting. Anybody here for the Commissioners' Public Forum? Hearing none. Paul, the minutes, warrants, and abatements, please.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of warrants, but first we'll do the minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of July 12th as written.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Paul, moving on.
Next, I would like to make a motion to approve the following warrants. First of all, we have Commissioner's salary, $500. And then we have 7 of them from Veolia. First one concerning the EQ tank, number 2 for $587.21. And then EQ tank 2B, first one was 2A, this is 2B, $1,207.78. And EQ tank T for troubleshooting a wiring issue, $422.76. We have June emergency services for $259.08. And sludge removal, $5,005 even. And then for 5 east and 6 west testing, $184. And the last one for Viola, the normal monthly service fee of $39,096.64. Next, we have Woodard and Curran for SCADA project through July 2nd of 2021, $40,228. WB Mason for office supplies, $21.44. And again, WB Mason for office supplies, $31.84. And then we have EJ Prescott for a meter for Carl Stores, $652.66. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a lien for 105 Masonic Home Road, $105. And another one lien for 109 Masonic, $105 again. Franklin Electric for grinder pump parts, $5,689.48. And McClure Engineering, blueprint copies for the RFP, $154. And lastly, Franklin Electric for grinder pump parts, $784, giving a grand total of $95,033.89.
How about a second?
I'll second.
All right, Russ. Pete, roll call vote.
Mr. Redlack, Mr. Redlack, Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
I didn't hear my name.
Oh, hi, Jack. Yeah, I called it earlier. So
Aye.
vote. Thank you.
Looks like the connection is breaking up or something.
That being done, I'd like to make a motion to approve the senior abatements for flat rate, $423.57, and for metered rate, $517.99, for a total of senior abatements, $941.49. And that completes everything I've got.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. All right, moving on. Scheduled appointments for tonight, 6:35, Treehouse. Go ahead, Peter, with that.
Right. So Luke Ledger from Treehouse is here with us tonight. The Treehouse would like to increase their daily capacity from 10,000 gallons per day up to 15,000 gallons per day. You remember back in November of 2020, we increased their capacity from 7,500 gallons per day to 10,000 gallons per day on a 6-month trial basis. In June of this year, you finalized that increase, and we assessed them a privilege fee for the additional capacity. This increase has not had a negative impact on the treatment plant, and Treehouse has also increased the amount of flow that they've been able to pre-treat through their new pre-treatment systems. Now, Treehouse is asking, again, to increase to 15,000 gallons per day. The average breakdown of that allotment would be approximately 3,000 gallons per day of sanitary waste, 6,000 gallons per day of processed waste, and 6,000 gallons per day of pre-treated waste. With the efficiency of the pre-treatment system to get the BOD and TSS levels near or below our surcharge standards, I think this increase would not have a negative effect on the treatment plant. My only concern is if their pre-treatment system were to go offline, then Treehouse would either have to slow production or truck the additional processed waste off site. Luke, if there's anything you want to add to maybe talk about why the increase is needed or what's going on up there.
Yeah, and if coming out of COVID, we have upped our capacities due to demand. So basically, we're asking for this extra 15, and I know Peter's concerns about the treatment plant going down. If the board would feel more comfortable, we would definitely put that in writing that if for some reason the treatment plant went down, that all of that, the numbers that the treatment plant were treating, we would truck offsite.
Luke, do you know what your company's protocol is for that situation now? If that plant went offline?
We actually currently do not have procedures for that now. I could verbally tell you if it would make you feel more comfortable that we would truck that all offsite to hit those numbers on that 5,000, 6,000 per day number that goes through the treatment plant. But like I said, we could 100% put that in writing if that made everybody feel more comfortable.
I really think that's a necessary thing, just in case anything goes awry.
So, Mr. Chair, to be consistent with what we did last time, I think that 6-month trial period worked out fairly well. Gave us time to kind of see what the additional capacity, if it had a negative impact on the plant, and kind of how the plant was able to treat it. So I did speak with John Oley about this previously, and he didn't seem to have any major concerns, mostly because of the additional waste that they're able to pre-treat at this time.
Through the chair, if I might.
Go ahead.
You guys have been to us several times now for increases. Do you believe this is going to be your last one for a while, or you guys think you're going to be back here anytime soon asking for more capacity again?
I would like to say no, we would not, but that's a very tough thing to figure out. It all dictates on how much we actually can move for a product. That derivative of how much wastewater we put out. I do think I actually know. I would say for a fact we would come back to you guys for a higher number. I just don't know how long it'll be before that happens.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, do you have any questions that haven't been answered on your end of things?
No, I think Treehouse has been very responsive for any questions that we have had. And if there's any concerns, they get right back to us. So no, I'm fairly comfortable that, again, with that 6-month trial period, like we did previously, we can kind of let this happen and see how it goes. And again, just make sure there's no negative side effects.
Sure. How about as far as the possibility of getting in writing if the treatment plant goes down, Peter? How do we go about doing that?
I think we would ask Treehouse to put together some type of side agreement to our memorandum of agreement that states that they're being allowed to increase their capacity from 10,000 gallons per day to 15,000 gallons per day on a 6-month trial period. And that's where they can add, if that pretreatment plant was to go offline, they would have to truck off that same amount of waste to make sure it doesn't come to the treatment plant.
Through the chair, if I could.
Go ahead, Russ.
Luke, when do you guys believe that you would need this additional capacity? Starting when? Is it like yesterday, or is it like, okay, we're ramping up to within a couple months, we're going to need this? And
It's yesterday kind of thing.
2 weeks ago.
Are you at 10,000 gallons per day now? Is that what you guys are using currently, Peter? Do we know that, or?
They've been exceeding that by a little bit. That's why this request is coming in front of you. So again, it's tough to know on because we get weekly readouts. In the last 3 weeks, it's been kind of ramping up, or probably up over maybe 12 or 13,000 gallons per day. But again, those are just averages, so it's kind of hard to put a real number on it. But I think if you guys were to approve this tonight, then Treehouse will be sending us that additional flow tomorrow.
Luke, I have another question.
Mhm.
You guys putting a distillery in there to do some vodka stuff? Did that is that still going into a holding tank, or is that going to be some of the additional flow that we get?
Correct. So as of now, and there's zero plans to change that. It goes into a tight tank. We pump all that wastewater off of site.
So that's not going to be getting hooked up into the system.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I think before we even discuss that, we would do some testing of what that actually looks like, BOD wise, and have McClure do that, present that to you guys if we ever were going to try to send that wastewater to you. But technically, there's no physical way that we can send that to you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I guess, Luke, real quick, can you just give them a quick update on, I guess, the phase of the pretreatment plant and how it's still in the pilot phase, and that right now there's no plan to really build it out because of its functionality at this time?
Yes. So, and that's another thing I kind of haven't talked about is we have a little bit more capacity. We're still tweaking that pilot phase. We may get ourselves up into the 7,000-ish treated gallons per day with that plant. That plant was obviously the trial period or trial plant. There is designs for a full build out. We have not gone any further with that as of now. I'm sure you guys know, Peter, those numbers get real big real fast to build out a full plant. That's one of those things, if we absolutely have to, then we'll just start discussing internally on our end. But it's not on any of our dockets as of now.
I just want to kind of point that out. So if the board is looking forward to maybe, say, a request for 20 or 25,000 gallons per day, that might be tied to improving that pre-treatment plant so that you'll be able to continue to increase how much how much process flow you can put through. And maybe that would be the economies of scale that would tip that to where if you go from 7,000 gallons per day pre-treated up to 17,000 gallons per day, what type of savings you would see from not getting surcharged for that amount.
Yep. Yeah,
what would be the additional cost, Peter, to Treehouse for this added capacity?
For the 5,000 gallons, it would be a $205,000 privilege fee.
Luke, are you guys asking for enough? I mean, if you're already at 12,000 gallons on average now, I mean, you guys came to us 6 months ago and up 2,500, and now you're up to 5,000, and you're already using, half of that number.
Yes.
Are you guys asking for enough?
I don't think we want to, this is a tough thing because, no, and I didn't want to come to you guys today and say, we're at 10,000, can we go to 20? That's, unless you guys feel comfortable with that. I don't
So,
want.
Mr. Chair, I think in Luke's initial request to me was 15 or 20,000 gallons per day. And I'm not sure I'm really comfortable with that, with a 100% increase going from 10 to 20 at this time. Just because we still have the high levels of ammonia in our treatment process. The BOD takes away from our ability to treat ammonia as well. So I think we really just need to get, again, I'm not saying that it'll never happen, but for now, I'd like to just continue to take small steps and say, all right, you're allowed 15,000 gallons per day. And if we get a couple days or averages that are 16 or 17,000 gallons per day, it's not the end of the world because they're still getting billed for it. And we can always say, look, you're sending us too much. We're having a hard time to treat, go back down to 15,000 gallons per day. So I think from where I sit, the 15,000 gallon per day number is kind of the safest place and most comfortable place for us to be, so that we don't charge them, for the full 20,000 gallons per day and then go back to them and say, nah, sorry, we can't take it.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
Through the chair.
That was just my train of thought as to kind of the small steps like we've been doing. So sure, they may be back to us in 6 months, but at least we'll know at that time how things are going.
Go ahead, Russ.
First of all, we as a board appreciate Treehouse doing all they can on their end to be a good business in Charlton. And I believe it has been a good working relationship between Treehouse and this board along the way. I would urge everyone involved to continue working that relationship. And I personally would say that I'd be in support of the increase at this time to support the business that hopefully continues to thrive in Charlton. But what I would say is, looking forward to additional capacity, I would ask Treehouse to potentially help us out and look at upgrades to the plant so that we can increase capacity, because what I don't want to see happen is continuous increases by a business that would ultimately take away from capacity for other future businesses and residents and limit them, while sending it all in one direction and going well above the moratorium that we have in place. It would be viewed as we're, giving Treehouse special privileges, but naturally, if you guys were to work with the town, I'm sure we could solve that problem. So I would make a motion, we approve with the 6-month trial period, the additional 5,000 gallons.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, Peter?
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman, Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Great. Well, thank you for coming, Luke.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Luke.
Thank you. It was very nice meeting all of you.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, moving on here. Veolia monthly June operating report. Vinny?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna cover the monthly operating report for the month of June. During the month of June, we were fully staffed. Myself, Dylan Moriarty, and Thomas Potvin. During the month of June, we completed fire extinguisher annual inspections. A third-party contractor came in. We collected all the fire extinguishers from the pump stations, the plant, and the vehicles. They inspected them. They swap out any that are in need of being replaced. They put new inspection tags, and we put them back out in service. The training for the month of June was on heat stress and hand power tool safety. We also made us participate in the Nfpa 70E electrical training. That's a 3-hour course. It's pretty comprehensive. It covers the appropriate PPE for working with live electrical, which we don't do. And it just gives you a lot of safety pointers of what you should and shouldn't be getting into. For compliance in the month of June, we did some extra aluminum testing in the month of June. We had an elevated level, but we made some adjustments and brought it down by the end of the month. And we're still making adjustments, bringing the pack level down. Operations and maintenance activities, we reinstalled the influence screen that we had made. That's back online and it's screening rags out of the influent. We did a lot of painting and cleaning during the month of June, getting ready for the plant tour. We painted underneath a couple of the RBCs. We wire brushed and painted all of the RBC effluent pipes. And I don't know how many of you guys have been through the plant, but they were in really rough shape and they look brand new now. It made a big difference. There was a bunch of old equipment stored underneath the RBCs that just in the past they were saved to salvage parts from. And the equipment they were going to be utilized for has already been upgraded and replaced. So there was no need to save all of these parts. So we got rid of those. Some of it was like broken valves and just old lab equipment that's no longer used. We received 2 bulk deliveries in the month of June. We got a ferric and pack. We had 3 workers come over from Southbridge to help us give a good cleaning to the plant before the tour. Wooden and Curran came in. They worked with LaFleur. They got a lot of information on the SCADA project, and I think they have everything they need to hit the home run on that. The collection system activities, 60 Morton Station Road tied in with a gravity line. The gravity line ties in the Mugget Hill Pump Station. Then we had pump station activities. We did our daily checks at 5 East, North Main, and 6 West, and the flow meter. We got an odor complaint from the neighbors at Vine Street. So we just went back out there and we turned on the odor control device. It looks like a 55-gallon drum. It's filled with carbon with a blower on top. And it just pulls the air from the wet well and the carbon kind of absorbs the odors. Stevens Park lost power 2 days in a row. That was on those real hot days in June when everybody was running their air conditioners. So the first day we called out Slim Sewer Service. They came out, pumped the wet well down, and it was fine all night long. The next day it lost power around 6 o'clock at night. I came out, National Grid was out there working on it. They had power back in a couple of hours. June 5th, we did a grinder pump call at 211 Sunset. It was an updated system. It was airbound. That's kind of an odd occurrence in this town. I haven't really seen it here before, but if the system has a good amount of organics in it and somebody goes on vacation, when the organics break down, it creates H2S gas. And it gets trapped in the volute, so the pump won't move any liquid. And all we really do is just pick the pump up out of the water and set it back down, and that clears the air pocket. So we didn't have to do anything else but that. On June 11th, we went out to 189 Sunset, and we replaced the pump there. It was burnt out. June 16th, we went to 79 Old Worcester Road. It was an updated system. There was some grease on the floats. We scraped it off, put it back in service. Everything worked good. Let's see, in June, we got 219 dig safe requests. A good majority of those came from Albanese Brothers. They have to update these dig safes every month until they're done with the project. And they push those things through about 75 at a time, so it's a lot. The comments section for the month of June, on June 23rd, the plant was toured by vendors interested in operating the facility. There were 4 companies in attendance. There was Veolia, Whitewater, Aquatech, and Weston and Sampson. We showed all aspects of the facilities, from the influent to the effluent and everything in between. All equipment questions were answered when asked. Technical questions were directed to be asked in email form to be furnished with a formal reply. On June 3rd, we reported a small water main break at the eastbound rest area. The owner of that property contacted a third-party contractor to make the repairs. We interviewed several candidates for the job opening we had, and we extended an offer to Patrick Adams. He comes to us with a background in mechanics and electrical, and as you guys know, those are desirable traits in this field. Tom Potvin returned to Sturbridge due to a recent vacancy there, so he's going to stay in Sturbridge. That concludes the MOR for June 2021. If there's any questions, please feel free.
I don't have any questions. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, not through the chair.
Go ahead, Russ.
Vinny, if I might, not related to this report, but several months ago, we had the sand get in the lines on Old Worcester Road, and we had talked about pumping down that pump station to make sure that there was not a lot of sand down in the wet well.
Correct.
Did you happen to take care of that?
We did. We covered that, I believe, in May's MOR.
Okay, all
But
right.
anyhow, I had Slim Sewer Service go out there. They cleaned the wet well. They did get a little bit of gravel. It really wasn't that bad at the station. And
Yep.
Continuing on from that conversation, when they were doing Carpenter Hill Road, we did go out there and inspect the manholes as they worked on them too.
Wonderful. Good job. Thank you, Vinny. Just wanted to follow up on that. I must have missed it.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Let's see, new business.
Yes, the first item of new business is the response received to the sewer operations request for proposals. John Oatley is here. As you're aware, we only received one proposal to operate the sewer treatment plant from the RFP. In 2016, when it was last bid, we only received 2 proposals. John Oatley was here to talk to us about his proposal and just give us an update of why they submitted what they did and give a little bit of an explanation.
You all set for me, Pete?
Sure.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks. As Pete said, we provided the tour of the facility for the 4 vendors that expressed interest in it. We fully expected this to be a very competitive bid process. We certainly have seen a lot of competition in the marketplace. So when we prepared our proposal and our bid to the town, it was with the expectation that this would be a very, very competitive bid. Recognizing that, however, it certainly has, it did represent a price increase to the town, fairly substantial. I will admit, but again, we did expect the market to be what it was, and that's how we arrived at our price. There are just about, there are 3 drivers, I would say, that are really lending itself to the increase in cost to the town. The first one is, what the market is. You may or may not be aware, but back in 2016, when Veolia was competing against the incumbent at the time, we made a few mistakes on our bid, which led to a much lower price submittal. And at the time, Veolia given the organization we are, met with the board at that time and guaranteed that we would honor that price, even though there were some mistakes on our end, candidly, that we made, and we've held that price consistently and that commitment throughout our agreement term. The second driver is obviously price increases across the board due to inflation, particularly in the labor market. I've explained to Pete that, we've had a fairly amount of turnover in staff at the facility. And one of the things that we try to avoid is that. And I think one of the approaches I took to this bid was to ensure that we're compensating our employees adequately within that region so that they choose to stay, as opposed to seeing this as an opportunity to move on to something else. And I think with the team we've assembled now, particularly with Vinny at the lead, I'm very, very confident that, we'll have this staff around for a longer period of time. And then the third driver is really the risk associated with the project. I think, it's fair to say that the facility performs very, very well, but it certainly is I would say sort of at a stretch, particularly around ammonia. I know Pete alluded to it a little bit in his discussion with Treehouse, but ammonia, for a lot of reasons, is really the parameter that the project is over capacity for. But it's also the one that's hardest to treat because there's not much we have in capacity to further improve our removal. Most of the ammonia gets removed in the RBCs, and they're just a fixed volume of space or capacity. We've with the town's direction, we've put them all online. They're all functioning 100%, but there's no additional capacity to them at this point for removing ammonia. Then you roll into the uncertainty of the new permit and the struggles we've had and have met with respect to zinc and aluminum and copper and some of the other challenges with permit compliance. The plant is a fairly risky plant to operate because of the variability in the loading, again, particularly around ammonia. But then, as we've all been experiencing over the last year, trying to get our arms around the zinc issue at the plant. And again, the town's under a new administrative order for zinc compliance. So for those three reasons, the price ended up being what we submitted. But I recognize that it probably came as a shock to the board in terms of, the increase above what our current fee was. That being said, I met with Peter and I said, not now that we're the only proposer, it gives us the opportunity if the town would like for us to sit down together and look at ways to reduce that cost, that operating cost, because again, a driver in that cost is the risk associated with the project. So the more we can de-risk the project, the less, we as a company have to carry in order to hedge against that risk. And those risks are associated with compliance, some of the scope elements that have been added, as well as, any sort of flow and load or CPI increase, across the term of the agreement. So I think that, I had a workshop with Pete, and I do think there's an opportunity for us to reduce the cost if we target those two particular areas. One, reduce the scope to only the scope that's necessary. And then also if we can take some of the risk associated with the uncertainty, particularly around compliance, I think there's a great opportunity for us to reduce that price. And I'd be willing to work with the board and either directly through Peter or in a workshop to kind of lay out what some of those opportunities might look like. I know if you look inside the price proposal, we identified that if we move from a straight CPI-U, which encompasses everything in the universe as far as costs associated with it, and focus only on those two indexes that really apply to what we do every day, there's roughly about an $8,000 annual savings right off the bat. Then if we look at the work the town has been doing through us as far as our CMOM work, the cammering and the cleaning. I think there's an opportunity to remove that scope and only do it at the direction and the instruction of the board when and if you feel it necessary and of value. And then if we look at the vehicle expenses and some of the things that get carried onto our scope, again, there's opportunity to reduce the annual fee. And then the big opportunity would be around chemical usage. One of the approaches that we could take, something I floated out with Peter, is if Veolia would just guarantee to the town that we will spend X amount of dollars per year in chemical treatment, particularly as we continue to drive to a more robust process around zinc and copper removal and aluminum removal, then the town wouldn't necessarily be paying for any additional expense that I'm carrying that I may not actually use, which is factored into my price at this time. So one of the ways we can do that, we outlined it in the proposal, we can just establish, baseline, Veolia, you own this amount. And if we go over it, the town would just pick up the cost with no markup. Or, the way it's currently configured, I'm carrying that risk, if you will, in my price. So you're paying for something that you may not ever need, but because you've asked me to do it, I've had to carry it. We all know that, we're continuing to drive the performance of the zinc removal system, the system to remove zinc. It's not really a design system. And we're continuing to make, downward pressure on the chemical use, particularly around PAC and ferric chloride. So I don't think we're at the bottom. I think we still have some room to continue to drive those costs down. But again, we have to do it in a very methodical way so we don't jeopardize compliance. And that's what we've been doing. And Vinny and I meet monthly to go over that. I'll also share with the board, as part of the approval process that I had to achieve through my company, is Veolia has undertaken a very comprehensive headworks and facility analysis from an analytical perspective. We're spending roughly about $6,000, Vinny, over the last 2 weeks, in which we've sampled every bit of treatment scheme throughout the facility, coming and leaving around at least, how many parameters, Vinny? At least 12?
Different parameters, multiple times per day. And yeah, it's a lot.
And what that's going to do is give the town and Veolia the information needed to really get a mass balance through the plant on a number of different parameters. The town could certainly use that information. It's yours. We'll provide it in a report form. It'll also help in response to the EPA or DEP if they have any questions about what the town is doing. So it's a very, very comprehensive analysis of the treatment flows around many, many different parameters. And that was just a request frankly, by my boss to make sure that we understood precisely what was happening inside the facility from a loading perspective. When all that information gets returned from the outside lab and the report gets generated, I'll be happy to share it with the town. But that's about a $6,000 activity that Veolia is doing on behalf of the town, just so you understand and we understand exactly, particularly around zinc and aluminum, what's coming in, where it's going, where it's leaving. Some pretty fascinating initial information that's come out of that on that analysis. We're evaluating as it comes in, but some pretty interesting thing, particularly around what types of material we're seeing and where it's accumulating inside the treatment plant.
John, you mentioned the chemical true up. What about the sludge true up?
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, it included sludge as well. Thanks, Pete.
That
I'm
was-
working off my notes. So.
That's right. The reason I want to mention that is because right now we have that quarterly, we have an agreement with Veolia to pay them additional sludge charges over so many loads per month that gets billed to us quarterly. So you saw on the warrant that Paul read today, a $5,000 charge for the second quarter of 2021 just for sludge hauling. So that's gonna go away. And in the past, with the agreement to use the pack and to try and find the different ways to treat for zinc, we've also been paying extra in chemicals as well on top of our regular monthly fee that we've agreed to. So John, those additional charges should not be here, correct?
Well,
If we
well,
were to,
I think what it shows is that, you know, you're paying for what it is actually happening, right? So in our fee includes those sludges. You're right. You wouldn't be seeing those charges any longer for pack or for sludge. That's what's built into our new fee. But again, as we continue to drive the process downwards and we continue to, you know, improve and try to find out where is the true amounts, if you will, you know, that'll ultimately be what the cost is.
but if we were to agree to that true up process for chemicals and for sludge, you have a baseline that you would start for the year.
Mhm.
It would be from the historical data that you have from the last 5 years of operating the plant, right? So it should be hopefully it would be a number that would be within 10% plus or minus. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, yes. I mean, we'd certainly have the historical baseline. The idea being that, you know, the town wouldn't see any charges until and if we exceed that amount. But it would be, you know, very transparent, and I was looking at ways to try to have the town only pay the amount of chemical and sludge and scope that they need.
So just to kind of throw some numbers out there, our current contract with Veolia is approximately $450,000 per year. It's gonna be more. It's gonna be 480 because our monthly fee was 40. So it'd just be a little bit more than $450,000 per year. The proposal per year is $677,000. So again, that included, one of the things I tried to change that John referenced was that Veolia provide the vehicle for the employees. Right now, we provide the town vehicle for the employees to go do service work and plow in the pump stations and stuff like that. And I put that out there just so we wouldn't have to lease it back to them. So we kind of maybe be a little bit cleaner. But if there's, you know, if there's good savings there, then we can just go ahead and provide the vehicle, and over 5 or 10 years, it'll pay for it. It'll be a cost benefit to us once it's paid for. And then our current contract provides so many feet of jetting the sewer line per year. And I think the reason that was in there is because when the previous board put the last RFP out, that was something they wanted to make sure happened annually. Because of how effective we've been with, you know, Paul Rodman and Veolia and doing the annual inspections that we've been doing, the jetting itself isn't really necessary. It's more the package steel. So I think if we take the jetting out and not carry it and just do that as a side agreement for the whatever Paul proposes for that year, or maybe we can even price it with somebody else to see, you know, just check Veolia's cost for that work. It would be a lot cleaner. So as John mentioned, I think there's some good ways for us to drive that price down and maybe, you know, keep us in partnership with Veolia as far as assuming risk for the cost of chemicals and sludge. And John, you mentioned, you know, the increase in lab costs as well from.
Yeah, that was another drive. That was, yeah, sort of in that second category, you know, the price increase. We've seen astronomical changes in lab pricing. It's certainly, you know, been exaggerated because of COVID. You know, we're just seeing outside lab costs just skyrocket. I assume it's because they're having the same labor issues that everyone else is having. But Vinny, you know, I don't know if you, I mean, even simple tests like BODs are now like $50 a test. It's just crazy from where they used to be around 10. You know, so those are just drivers in the market that, you know, are, you know, they are what they are, and we just have to price accordingly, unfortunately.
John, can we go back to the risk part of the proposal? Can you tell me a couple of things that we could do to take that risk off the table for you?
Yeah, Peter and I have had some conversations about some of the improvement. You've already gone down that path or going down that path when we talk about adding alkalinity into the facility and making the improvements to that process of adding the lime or the sodium bicarbonate in time, or, we're just not set up to do that. We've made you've made some improvements to the DO control at the system. I think there's some further improvements that can be made at the facility to help drive some of the increased BOD and ammonia removal inside of those EQ tanks. Right now, we have a very antiquated coarse bubbles system, which isn't very efficient at providing oxygen for the bacteria. It's really meant for mixing more than anything. So I think some improvements there could go a long way. We have zero redundancy in the headworks. So when that system is down for extended periods of time, all of that material accumulates inside of the EQ tanks, thereby reducing capacity. Because
Are these things fixable?
Oh, they're definitely addressable. Yeah. They would require upgrades. They would require an investment up front.
Yeah, well, if the, I'm just going to use numbers. I mean, if the upgrade is a $50,000 upgrade and your bid is as a $30,000 risk for that particular, sector, it might behoove us to spend the 50,000. I mean, unless you're
I agree. I think, there's, Peter and I were just discussing this the other day about what improvements might lend themselves, not only just to improve the risk, and I say risk, it's really about, making sure the plant can do what we're asking it to do effectively. And then you piggyback that conversation about what Treehouse is looking to do, or even if the town looks to expand, even further in business development or even home ownership, you're going to need that. You're going to need to de-risk the process, right? In order to make those informed decisions about how much capacity is really available to the, to the entity that's looking to discharge into the system. I can't tell you right now, the ammonia is, we're taking in more ammonia than the plant was originally designed to treat. And you run the risk every single day that we may not be able to meet that ammonia limit. I think Vinny, outside of the most recent problem with zinc, but I think we've got zinc under control. If you look at the data, ammonia is the biggest problem we have.
All right. So what do you do in a treatment plant to get rid of ammonia?
You have to increase either capacity of the biology. And there are ways you can do that. Fix media inside the EQ tank. There's engineering thing, or you can increase the oxygen transfer that occurs. And that's through that air distribution system inside the EQ tanks, make it more efficient. Instead of just blowing bubbles through a big straw, you blow, kind of like a fish tank, a really fine bubble that increases the amount of available oxygen for the bacteria to work. So there are things like that can happen. Adding alkalinity, we know is a very important part of the ammonia removal process. Having the ability to add that over time in real time, which is what we're looking to do with the upgrade that's already been approved.
So, Mr. Chair, after our discussion with John, I went and met with the town administrator because the town's receiving approximately $4 million from the American Rescue Plan from the federal government. So I talked to him, and one of the things that itemized for the use of that funds is water and sewer infrastructure improvements. So I think if I can work with John a little more, in my discussion with the town administrator, he wanted to maybe see it be done in 2 phases, where the first phase, I think the money's gonna be allotted in 2 years, this year and next year. So he pretty much said we could get a decent sized chunk of those funds. So he asked for this year to maybe have Veolia do the engineering for us and come up with, like John said, what we can do those EQ tanks to make them more effective, whether we, need to do some fixed film media as well as fine air aeration. the headworks building, I think, would be fairly pricey. But we could also do some, while we're using the ARPA funds, get that designed for us so we can at least, put it out to bid and see what we're looking at. And then bid those projects and use the funds from next year to actually complete the work. So unfortunately, I think you're looking at a range of, $400,000 to $1 million. It's not $50,000 or $100,000. So it's kind of big money. And then if you look at doing process changes inside the treatment plant with our Nfpa's permit being expired and not knowing how our discharge limits might change with the new Nfpa's permit that might get issued, I hate to see us spend money and do process changes inside the treatment plant that we have to go ahead and change again because our new Nfpa's permit requires us to do something different, or we need that area to make some drastic changes. So I think for now, like John said, if we focus on, I was hoping to talk to John and maybe get a proposal from him, from Veolia, to come out and do the engineering work, or get me a cost proposal to do the engineering and design work for improvements to the EQ tanks and the headworks building as two separate projects. And then I'll submit that to the town administrator for funding from the ARPA funds, and we should be able to get that done sooner than later.
Through the chair to Peter, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Peter, when do we have to make a decision on this contract?
This contract expires at the end of October this year, so we have some time.
Okay. We had discussed having a separate breakout meeting for the whole water bill discussion. Do we want to, in fact, swap that out with this one and then postpone that water discussion until maybe a meeting after that? And spend some time discussing all the possibilities in the direction we think we'd like to go as far as funding and direction on that funding with the plant?
I think it'd be more effective if we could to have a subcommittee formed with maybe 2 members. And then we can do a sit-down meeting here at the plant with John. John can run, because I know John and I just met last Friday, so I'm not even sure he has real numbers as to what the changes he's proposing would save us. So, if there's 2 members who would like to come and sit in on those meetings with me, we can have that, we can have a nice, kind of open dialogue discussion in that workshop, and then report back to the full board.
Who's the second member? Cameron, you want to get your feet wet? Are you available?
Depending on the day, yeah, I would be.
You pick the day.
Okay. I can email you guys after the meeting.
Sure. Okay. Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Does that sound good, John?
Yeah, it sure does.
Good with that for direction, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
That direction work for you and the rest of the board?
Yeah, that's what I think we should do, for sure.
Perfect.
All right.
I'll make a motion to establish a subcommittee and look at moving forward with this issue.
Second that.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
And thank you for all the info you gave us tonight, and we'll look for more info in the upcoming weeks here.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. And that's what we want to do. We want to work as collaboratively as possible.
John, is there any way you could email me, probably not next week, but the week after, a list of days you're available to come up? And then I'll forward that to Russ and Cameron to see if any of those match him.
Not a problem. I can get that put together within a day or two, Pete. No
I
problem.
mean, the worst case, the 3 of us could meet here and we could still do it over Zoom if you're stuck, if you can't make it up here.
Just so you guys know, Wednesdays are typically bad That's all.
I'm sorry, Russ, did you say best or bad?
Bad.
Okay, well, that's good, because they're bad for me too. My best days are typically a Monday or a Friday.
Yeah, Mondays are great for me. Fridays work as well. So.
All right. Well, thank you, John.
All right, guys. Well,
Thank
pleasure
you.
seeing everybody. We'll talk again soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Peter, moving on, Green Communities HVAC grant.
Yes, so as you know, our HVAC system, I priced it out, I think maybe a year and a half ago for replacement. Fortunately, it hasn't broke yet, so we haven't had to do any repairs or replacement. However, the AC up in the Veolia office is not working, so Vinny has a temporary AC unit up there for them. But probably almost a year ago now, I applied to the Green Communities grant for an HVAC upgrade. Company called Horizon Solution, that is a pre-approved sub-bidder for National Grid and for the Green Communities grant, which is a part of the Mass Department of Energy. Came out and put together a proposal under our annual grant for the town to replace the HVAC system in the lab, our office, bathroom, and upstairs in Veolia's office. So we did receive a grant from the Green Communities for $49,294 to do that replacement. This project will be at no cost to us.
Nice work, Peter.
Thank you. So I just wanted to let you guys know. Hopefully the town will be signing that contract and we'll be getting that done this fall.
Moving on. U.S. Department of Energy.
Yeah, the U.S. Department of Energy has a SWIFT program. It stands for Sustainable Wastewater Infrastructure of the Future. So I found National Grid did an online seminar about wastewater infrastructure and wastewater treatment plants and making them more energy efficient. The U.S. Department of Energy had a little slide in their presentation for this program. So I kind of followed up with them on this, and I attached a one pager, they call it, that kind of talks about it. No fees or cost to participate. And I guess the main thing it does that got me interested is it gives me access, it gives us access to experts and technical consultants that we can reach out to come and look at the plan or to talk about any issues we might be having, to find ways to make it more, I guess, energy efficient, but also I just think any type of efficiency can be tied to energy efficiency. So with all the different things that we're trying, I think to maybe have another set of people to contact to maybe get another set of eyes on it could be very helpful. I know, last week I had National Grid out to talk about the operations of our dehumidifiers in the treatment plant and our makeup air units to try and come up with a better control system for that than just the old school mechanical timers and stuff like that. And the two people that were out here had some, they met with Vinny and myself, and again, just having a couple different sets of eyes on it really shows you kind of how to look at things differently. And they're going to actually reach out to their specific professionals in that area to come out and do an assessment of the treatment plant to see what we can do for improvements as well. So
I'll make a motion that we authorize Peter to sign the form and be our designated representative for the program.
You a second?
I'll second that.
just real quick before you vote, because it is a partnership agreement and there is no penalties if you don't do anything, but it does say that if you want to see you demonstrate a 5% reduction in energy intensity, she said I can cross out whatever I want, but it is an agreement with the US DOE, so, but they did say they are not a regulatory agency, so there would be no penalties. So again, it just seems like it's a good project to get into, so thank you for that.
Doesn't change my motion.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Ridloff,
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. King.
Aye. All right, Peter, water line for the police department.
Yes, the town administrator has been working with the municipal building committee to find a way to get public water to the police department. Their well is woefully inadequate for their needs. The town has previously approved $75,000 at a prior town meeting to fund the connection of the police department to the public water line on Masonic Home Road. The water line is not currently in front of the building, so it would have to be run on the side of the road in the gutter line for approximately 250 feet to get to the property and then run through the property to the building. McClure Engineering has provided an estimate to have this project designed, bid, and completed. Their estimated amount is $125,000. There is a breakdown of that cost associated included. And again, so the town administrator has asked if we would consider using some of the water stabilization funds that we have set aside from the ExxonMobil settlement to fund the difference in the estimate and what was previously approved.
Peter, if I might, on the construction costs,
Yep.
contract documents, permits, and assist with bid and award, $26,000.
Yes.
Do we have a breakdown of that? That just seems like an awful heavy administrative piece of the bid.
Yeah, I asked Chris about that and he said he tried to price it heavy so that the contract, it wouldn't be short. So again, I believe that price is not set in stone by any means. That's probably negotiable, or we could always have someone else get a price from another engineering company besides McClure to get us through this project as well, so.
Peter, is this running a pipe on top of the ground, or are we putting it in the ground?
No, this will be buried. The water line will be buried. So, yeah, I saw that cost as well, and
You don't have a breakdown of that 26,000, right?
no, all I have is what's in front of us.
Okay.
So I believe the municipal building committee, or Kurt talked to Chris McClure to get this proposal done, to know what that cost, to try and get an actual cost to connect the PD to the water line. That's
Because the
final
municipal-
song.
The municipal building committee paid McClure for the plan so far.
Well, there isn't a plan yet. I tried to get a copy of the plan that he used to come up with this estimate, and he said it's just a hand drawing.
Okay.
So there is no plan.
We
So I
did allocate funds on the municipal building committee for the plan so that the plan could go out to bid.
I think those funds are what got you to this point here with this estimate. But
I was
I'm
under-
not- I don't know that for sure.
Yeah. Again, I was on a different understanding. My understanding was that we're having Chris draw up a plan to be able to send that out to get a bid. And I would still like to see that. I'd like to see that plan, and I would like to be able to have that plan circulated for bids. That's the only way that we're going to know the true number, is what somebody wants to do the project for. And again, I would also like the breakdown on that $26,000 of administrative fee, 1/4 of the project cost. That seems pretty hefty.
I can, I'll forward those concerns.
And then, so 75,000 of this cost was approved at a prior town meeting. If we were to say, just in round numbers, the project required an additional 75,000, we would have to go to town meeting for that as well, right, Peter?
Yes,
So we would need a placeholder at the fall town meeting for this.
yes.
All right.
And
So,
again, we can put the placeholder there that doesn't have to be a dollar figure yet.
Yeah.
And that can all be
Okay.
done later.
well, I'm in favor of that and finding out more information so that we can make a more informed decision in the meantime.
Peter, do you know that it's about 250 feet? It just says on here, the water line, blah, 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 the road approximately 250 feet to get to the property.
Right, but then it's another 230 feet down the property to the back of the building.
And they run copper tubing for all that?
Yes. 2-inch copper.
It's really expensive, huh?
Yes.
It's extremely expensive, but you know, the larger issue here is if we wind up in a situation where, for whatever reason, the water does go out at the police department, and now our police department is out of service until we get the problem fixed. It's a really small issue that needs to be resolved so that we don't wind up in a really big situation.
Russ, do you know when the municipal building committee is meeting again?
I don't. I'd assume that we're probably going to have a meeting in the next couple weeks, but
Right.
I don't know for sure.
I'll call it town administrator tomorrow and try and have that information for you for that next meeting.
Excellent. Very good.
All right, anybody else have any more questions about this here? All right. Go on next agenda, Peter, all boards and committee meeting.
Yes, the Board of Selectmen is scheduling an all boards and committee meeting for Tuesday, September 21st at 6 p.m. in the Senior Center. So this is really just a round table where they try and get 1 or 2 representatives from every board in the town together, give a brief update of what that respective board or commission has going on, and just share that information for all the other committees and boards, and to put out in front of the public in one big meeting. So if anyone's interested in attending, you're more than welcome. Again, I will plan on going. If someone wants to give the presentation other than myself of what's going on for the department, I'm more than happy to hand over some information. The only thing is, if more than 2 of you are going to show up, we do need to post it as a meeting, so there'll be a quorum of the committee.
Well, sounds like you got that job too, Peter.
It's a great place for the chairman to show up and
I hear
let
you.
people know what's going on.
I hear you. It's my birthday, September 21st, though.
Is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Oops.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The water connection payment from Southbridge.
Yes, as part of the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Southbridge, operating our system, they're required to pay us 15% of their annual water connection fees collected. In FY21, they collected $264,000 in water line connection fees, which equal a payment to us of $39,600. The payment has been received and deposited. This revenue should show up as retained earnings at the end of the year in our water retained earnings, and will most likely be transferred to the water stabilization account.
Peter, that water agreement, you have a copy of that somewhere that you could email me with the town of Southbridge? If you can do that, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
That seems like pennies on the dollar, Peter, 39,000.
That's what the agreement was.
That's what the agreement was. All right. Anybody have questions with this? All right, Peter, moving on, chapter 61A release.
Yes, we have received a request to move approximately 100 acres of land from chapter 61A at 53 Sturbridge Road. As part of this request, the Board of Selectmen has the right of first refusal to purchase the property. The Board of Selectmen has asked departments of town to make a recommendation on whether there is a need for them to exercise their right of first refusal. Again, this is.
I'll make a motion that we notify the Board of Selectmen that we are not interested in the parcel.
A second.
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion. Hearing none. Peter?
Mr. Ridlack? Mr. Ridlack?
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon?
Aye.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Jennings?
Aye.
And Mr. Campbell?
Aye. All right, moving on. Old business.
Waterline construction update. Sue sent out our mailer regarding the 1-year connection period on July 22nd. So our letter has gone out to all the property owners who have not agreed to connect yet to let them know the 1-year grace period and when it expires. As far as the service connections, Albanese Brothers continues to install service lines to homes and work with their subcontractors to make the actual connections inside of the homes. Kleinfelder has been providing detailed information for each connection to Sue as they take place. So far, they have 138 signed agreements to connect, and 70 of those have been completed. So we're probably right at about 60% of residents on the new water line who are able to connect are committed to actually connecting.
You say 60%, Peter? That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. There's about just over 200 homes, so it might actually be a little bit higher. It might actually be 65 or 68%. We're doing okay, and we're still getting calls every now and then, right, Sue, from stragglers asking about why their
Yes,
neighbors
we are.
neighbors are getting connected and they're not. So
Okay, good.
that 1-year grace period is probably a good thing and should work out fairly well.
All right, moving on. Let's see, other business. I would like to bring up one thing. I'd like to get a meter, Peter, for the inflow, so we know how many gallons of we're taking in when we have a storm outside. I think we said that the meter maxes out at 750 gallons per minute. And I don't think anybody knows exactly how much we're taking in. So that's something I'd like you to look into if you could for us.
Yep. I'll work with Vinny on that.
Thank you. Anything else? Old business? Hearing none, moving on. Next meeting, September 13th, Peter?
Yes.
All right. How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
There you go, Paul. Can I get a second?
I second that.
All right, second from Kim. All in favor, let's go, Peter, with a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Jennings,
He's off.
he's off. All right, guys, thank you. See you September 13th.
Yep.
All
And,
right.
Sue has stuff for you guys to sign if you can stop in.
All right, well,
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
You as well.
Night.